Hello and welcome to Mobile Tech Addicts podcast number 229. I'm your host Gareth, and I have to apologise to you that we haven't done this since, wow, July. And here we are on the eve of possible independence of Scotland and the United Kingdom, stopping to be the United Kingdom that we know and love so well. And yeah, we're back. No excuses other than just having a wonderful summer. Matt was away. I was slightly away. Phil was away all the time. And yeah, Phil's with me here right now. How are you, Phil?
I'm good, thanks, Gareth. How are you?
Yeah, can't complain. It's good to be back doing this, although things seem to have changed. We do have two other folks waiting to join us. We have Matt somewhere. I think he's restarting because Google Hangouts is just not working for him on his Mac. And we also have a special guest, as in Jay Garrett from Gadgety News, who we're also trying to get to join us. He's currently at the Fukushima function in the Shard in London. He was here, but he isn't now, but hopefully we'll be able to reconnect with him later in the podcast and see what's happening there. Dan Carter is not here because it is the eve not only of Scottish independence, possible Scottish independence, sorry, but of the iPhone 6 launch, so he's away off down to Exeter to queue at this time. Matt, Phil, you're going to be snuggled up in bed whilst you're sorry, I'm being called by Jay. He's obviously trying to join in. What I'll do is I'll cancel that and add him again just in case that might actually work. Sorry, folks. Bit of housework here.
I will be tucked up nicely in bed tonight, and I have one iPhone 6 being delivered tomorrow, and I'm collecting another one from Regent Street with a reservation at 4 o'clock. So it should all be nice and civilised.
Excellent. And what are you getting?
I am having a 16 gig iPhone 6 small version delivered, and I'm picking up a 64 gig plus.
Ah, okay.
So I've got one of each to see what they're like. I have a feeling I know what the size of the plus is roughly equivalent to an HTC One Max, which is quite a big phone.
Oh yeah, it is absolutely. I was actually comparing it the other day to this.
Another call from Jay.
Yeah, that is another call from Jay.
Can we try and answer it?
No, I can't, because that would be rude to the people who are watching and listening. Yeah, I have the Acer S2 here, which is a 6-inch phone, and given the specs and dimensions of this, it's roughly the same size as the iPhone 6 and the HTC Max.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a bit of a crazy illustration too.
Yeah, it's interesting that the iPhone 6 smaller version, which I keep having to call it, is the same size as Nexus 5. Nexus 5 has a 5-inch screen as opposed to 4.7, and the HTC One Max has a 5.9 to the 5.5 for the iPhone 6 Plus. So there is quite a lot of bezel involved in the two phones, but the home button necessitates that. What else was I going to say about it? I am quite impressed by the specs. Well, I was very impressed by when I watched the announcement for the iPhone 6, and was taken in. Came away thinking, what a great phone, really impressive. And then about half an hour later, I was sitting drinking a cup of tea, and I realised actually the iPhone 6 is not sounding that wonderful at all. It roughly sounded like Nexus 4 in specs. And the iPhone 5 Plus, well, I've got an LG G3 with a 5.5-inch screen, and I read some reviews suggesting, you can carry this around instead of an iPad mini. Well, I've got an LG G3 that's got a 5.5-inch screen. It's not a replacement for an iPad mini.
Oh, very true, yeah. This is the first year that this has really come into comparison, the iPhone 6 and Nexus 4 so directly. Obviously, they've been at each other's throats for so many years now. But this is the first time that people have actually sat down with the specifications and gone, this and this, this and this, this and this. This is the same as a Nexus 4. Being so specific, why do you think they didn't do that with the iPhone 5S or 5 or 4 or 4S or 3 or 2 or 1?
I would suggest up until iPhone, let's say 5, they were possibly ahead of the game. They were ahead of the competitors, and then we got the Galaxy S devices. They came on leaps and bounds. The Nexus devices, again, good spec devices. Sony also entered the fray with some reasonably high level devices, and it meant that iPhone needed to catch up in some way. It is interesting, as you say, that there has been a direct comparison with the specs, but I mean, according to Apple, they invented a whole load of new technology during the iPhone 6 conception, and they announced it at the launch. Then they launched mobile payments via touch. Well, I believe that's been there certainly in the United States on Google Wallet for several months, years. Mm-hmm. We haven't perhaps got it in this country yet, but it has been there as a technology. NFC can also do lots of other things. Apple have perhaps understandably locked it down for at least the first year, so that it'll only be able to be used with Apple Pay. But NFC does have some quite useful and interesting uses. Just this week, there's been some changes on the London Underground, which have brought NFC into play even more, and Apple have locked it down to their payment system, which sounds just like something Apple would do. And I have to be honest, I was a big iPhone fan and didn't like Android. But you do see once you come out of the Apple ecosystem that things are more open outside. Possibly not always as reliable. But yeah, what do you think of the iPhones? The two pair of them.
Well, I'm quite pleased at the setup, the arrangement there. I've always felt that, well, Apple take existing technology and they refine it and make it work better than any other manufacturer in the world. Whilst their devices might not be evolutionary, they are revolutionary, I suppose, if that's the term, if that's the way it works. The iPhone 6 Plus is very welcome. However, I am thinking that it's possibly not going to be the biggest seller for them, because I think people are just going to take it as too big. You know, iPhone users are used to the smaller screen, and it's such a drastic screen increase to go from the 5S to the 6 Plus that it might be really off-putting for many people. So I still think that they'll just go, the 6 is fine for me, and then maybe next time around they'll go to a larger screen again than what they're trading up to now.
Do you perhaps think they're maybe thinking we can bring some people back in who used to be using iPhones, moved away because they wanted a bigger screen, perhaps got a little bit disillusioned with, let's say, some of the more quirky software builds that are on some of the Android phones you can purchase? I just wonder that. I mean, I've recently moved to the LG G3 and I've noticed some, let's just say, inconsistencies with the how solid the software is and how reliable things are. And I wonder if there will actually be a bit of a transition back from Android to iPhone. Certainly something I've been considering.
Well, yes, I've spoken to a number of people that are iPhone users at the moment, and they're really stoked about the 6 and the 6 Plus, and aren't really too interested in the idea of moving to Android because, you know, new hardware, new software. Obviously, this is the best time for Apple fans. However, today, with people getting iOS 8, there seems to be an awful lot of groaning and moaning about the size of iOS 8 and especially from folks who have 16 gigabyte iPhones who are having to get rid of a whole rake of stuff off their phone in order to be able to do the update. Arranging their apps, uninstalling apps, hoping that everything's backed up to iCloud, and that just so that they can. I think it works out that they need something like 13 gigabytes or something to be able to do the update.
No, yesterday I had a similar thing with my iPad Mini. I've got a 32 gig iPad Mini that I actually discovered I had 144 megabytes free on it, which was a bit of a scary worry, but never mind. So I deleted a couple of apps which I put on there for the holiday, TomTom, that sort of thing. And I needed 4.8 gigs, so basically I just dumped my movies off it, dumped my TomTom, and that freed up the space. 4.8 gigs, managed to do the update, and yeah, all loaded up. Actually, the way they did iOS 8 was actually quite nice. Usually you can hit the yes, I want to do the over-the-air update button, and it then takes about 12 hours to download because the servers are overrun.
Yes.
And what it did this time is, great, thank you for asking, you're now in a queue, we'll alert you when the download is ready, which actually worked out quite nicely. It did take a hell of a long time to finish updating. It took about, I think it was about 45 minutes, which I think is one of the longer of the over-the-airs, and it was a 925 meg download. I'm just having a look to see, because my iCloud was still updating to iCloud Drive. It's now finished. Well, it took about 5 hours to do that then.
Right.
So that's fun.
So the iPhone 6 specifications, which I did used to have in front of me, but I have since lost with all the huffle and the fuffle of trying to actually get this Hangout set up tonight with Google changing stuff and not telling me. Damn them. Damn their britches. The iPhone 6, does it have anything in the hardware that is particularly new other than NFC and a 128 gigabyte version?
That's about it. Still got a, I think it's 1.2 gigahertz processor, which from an Android point of view sounds pitiful. Considering I'm sitting here with a 2.5 gigahertz processor next to me, which sucks its battery down immediately. But iOS is quite nicely streamlined to run as it should, and sit battery in comparison, perhaps.
Right.
Yeah.
There's
nothing groundbreaking there. I mean, the cameras are what, 8 meg cameras. Most of us are now on at least 13. But the shots that you take with an iPhone are pretty impressive. So.
Well, it's the A8 processor, it was the A7 in the iPhone 5S, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And this A8 is from iPads and things, so it should be blisteringly powerful.
Yeah, but I think certainly with the 6 Plus, it's doing some funny things with the resolution, because it's actually taking the resolution of an iPhone 5S piece of software, blowing it up to, is it 4 times, and then downsampling it to 3 times. So it's a bit odd. So the actual resolution of the screen on that is 1080p, but the actual screen that's being reported to the apps is something like 1440 or 1240p, something like that. It's an odd one. So there's a bit of computation having to go on there, so it needs a big processor to push the pixels.
Right, okay. Obviously the size difference is noticeable, but also they've rounded off the edges a lot. They've done a lot to the device itself to make it more aesthetically pleasing, I suppose. It's not quite as square as it was before. I know that I remember one review when the iPhone 5 first came out that the reviewer said that he found it a wee bit difficult to pick the phone up because of the straight edges as they led down to to a desk or whatever. So he sometimes had to slide it off the desk to pick it up. Obviously the curved edges on the iPhone 6 and Plus do not cause that problem, although I don't remember hearing too many people complaining about that problem.
Well, I'll be honest, I had iPhone 3G, 3GS, never used a case with them, liked holding them in my hand. The iPhone 4 onwards, I was never happy with the shape of them. They didn't feel comfortable to hold without a case to me. So I always had a case on them, not the protection side, oddly, just because I didn't like holding them without. So
Yeah.
hopefully this will be something similar. Must say the rounded edges does help to hide the size of a phone. G3's got a rounded back and actually nice and comfortable to hold. Yeah, I think they've probably gone the right way, and I think if they did a phone that big that was just a slab of metal, it probably would look a bit even more gigantic, probably.
Jay threw in a comment there. Obviously, he's watching it. Google Hangouts isn't letting him join yet for whatever reason. Obviously, Phil's here and I'm here, so we're able to do it, but Google Hangouts has just been a bit of a prick tonight. Yeah, he's saying that it looks like a slippery bugger and it's just asking to be dropped. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, wouldn't disagree. Need to wait to see what it's like in the hand first. I've read some of the early reviews. That sort of thing has been suggested about it, but I mean, if you've got anything, unless it's got a matte plastic texture, they are quite droppable, really, aren't they? Phones. Yeah, I think it probably is something that will be dropped a lot, but
Okay.
at least it hasn't got the glass back anymore.
Yeah. Sorry, I just had an epiphany of how to actually do this. Tell me about the camera.
The camera. Well, that's one of the. There's a bit of a bugbear between people. The iPhone 6 and 6 Plus do not have the same. Well, they've got the same camera, but the iPhone 6 Plus adds optical image stabilization, I believe, into the mix. So there are a couple of little bits and bobs. The camera on the 6 and 6S, both of them actually protrude from the back of the device. So you've got a bit of a lump like you get on a lot of the smartphones now. You just haven't got the depth within the phone to get a decent camera in there. So they've got 8 meg cameras, optical image stabilization in the 6 Plus. I think there was a 5-element lens, things like that. It's an f2.2, I think, lens. So it should be nice and quick, get the light in quickly. Jay's just added another comment. It's a shame that the new phones, he's right, it's a shame that the phones look lovely, but then you have to cover them in a cheap cover. Yeah, he's absolutely right. That's often the way. So the cameras look a bit of an evolution over what's come before rather than a revolution. There's nothing groundbreaking there. There's no laser beams. There's no. There is one new thing. It's got rather than what most phones got, which is contrast-based autofocus. They've got, I think it's called phase-based. So it actually does the autofocus inside the lens, and it's all clever and magical, and it's quicker. So that will be interesting to see how quick it is. You may have heard me mention I've got a G3, which has got a laser beam on the back, apparently, which does the focus, and it is very quick. It's one of the few things I actually quite like about the phone. But we won't go into that now. So it will be interesting to see what they're like.
Yeah.
I am actually tempted to go back and give it a try. I've done a year away from my iPhone, and with the Nexus, it was actually quite enjoyable. The Nexus actually, I think, gives quite a similar experience to iPhone in a way. You get the software updates day and date. You get hardware that's not actually at the pinnacle, but is quite nice and solid and robust. You get software which is actually, with the Nexus, simple, easy to use, and it's quite a similar experience. When you go to a manufacturer slightly customized Android phone, you realize, is it Android you like, or is it actually Nexus phones? And iPhone and Nexus actually do kind of draw a similarity there, apart from one is fully locked down and one is fully open. So.
Well, that's very true. That's a really interesting idea. That obviously the heavier the overlay, the less Androidy the phone is. TouchWiz and Sense is barely recognizable as Android unless you really start digging away at it.
And the Sony Xperia's actually I think they are very close to stock Android, well, still adding a little bit for the manufacturer to say, here's what we've done, while still looking quite similar and behaving in quite a similar manner. Some of the overlays, even when they look like they're not doing a great deal, you suddenly get things jumping up in funny colours here, there and everywhere. And it might not be the most aesthetically pleasing sometimes, especially if you put your own launcher on. So you've got, say, a nice dark theme, like maybe this one, nice dark theme on the screen, but then you go to something else and you suddenly got a pastel green, which doesn't suit at all.
Yeah, very true. Oh, actually, 4K. The iPhone camera optics don't cater for 4K right out of the box. That might come in an update. Is that right?
I'm not sure. I think they've said 1080p. I personally haven't had any need to shoot any 4K video yet. I can't really see why I want to. I don't really shoot video much anyway on my phone. I've got my QX10 if I want to shoot video, which again shoots quite pleasing 1080p. So
very true,
something I've had to deal with.
But I suppose with Apple don't really have a 4K channel or output, so Google and Android would obviously use YouTube, which caters for 4K. So it makes sense to have it put into the into an Android phone. And Jay has sent in another message. This is horrible. I want Jay to be here. Apple does not like it following Android more and more. Even with the optional extras for the Apple Watch, they're also doing things with the lock screen just like Android. Fair comment. What are they doing with the lock screen, actually, come to think of it? What's happening with iOS?
You've got, with iOS 8, you've got actionable notifications. So if you get a text message come in, you can answer it there and then, just straight from a pop-up at the top without having to jump out of what you're doing. And also on the lock screen, you've got the ability to, say, mark as read a message, or you can reply to it there and then, that sort of thing. So yeah, they are. There's elements of it, but then if you've got a Nexus device, you don't get those things anyway. They're things that are often built in by the manufacturers. So actually, bland Android, you don't always get all of those fun things. So is it copying, or is it actually just everybody working together to create something that's very similar?
Well, and Jay's chimed in there again with 4K videos are handy for capturing motion stills. Obviously, you get that higher picture quality and a higher frame rate as well. So you get smoother video and smoother still shots. Very important thing there. I don't know. I think I am a wee bit excited for people getting the iPhone 6. I can't say I would ever entertain the idea of buying one myself. I'm happy enough in Android land right now, but although I'm a wee bit curious about Windows Phone, because it just seems to be getting better and better, and the reviews are getting better and better for it, which is interesting me a great deal. Do you think that Apple is really gonna? Do you think the iPhone 6 might actually hurt Apple? To be honest, do you think it's enough?
It seems as though it's pleasing enough people where it matters. One of the good things that they seem to have picked up is the 6 Plus, which, let's be honest, it may be something that business people will use more than, average, let's say, teenagers, let's say. So battery life has always been a problem on the iPhone. It has been a struggle to get it through the day. With the 6 Plus, apparently the battery life is hugely good, because you've got a lot of space for battery in there, because it's a huge thing with actually not great high spec interior. So it's getting good battery life. So yes, I've had a lot of people come up to me this week at work and said to me, so what do you think? Which iPhone shall I buy? So I pulled out my 1 Max and I said, well, that's the Plus. And then I pulled out, what did I have with me? Something 5 inches, and I said that's roughly the size of the
Don't say that, Phil. God, don't say
A
that.
phone with a roughly 5-inch-ish screen, and I said that's the size of the 6, and they've gone, oh, the 6 Plus looks fine. That fits in a suit jacket pocket. That'd be great. And I said, well, yeah, but think of the weekend when you're not wearing a suit. And they said, that'll be fine. So
They'll make it work.
They'll make it work. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've carried the 6. I've carried the 1 Max at the weekend, and it's not comfortable, but you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
One of the big downsides, I think, might be my QX10 wouldn't fit on a 6 Plus because it doesn't. It doesn't fit on the 1 Max either.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Jay's raised another good point.
Oh,
Apple's
yes.
strength has always been its UI and the ease of use. People will generally want something that will work every time and without any hassle. This is actually a point I was raising with someone at work the other day. They said, well, what do you think? And I said, well, what you've got to remember is what Apple does is they do 80% of what you might want the phone to do, but they do it 100% correct.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I said, my phone will do 100% of what you want, probably only, well, in this case, about 40% correct.
Well, yeah. I mean, look at what we're using right now. We're failing miserably to do this Google Hangout because it's still sitting in beta and it's got all kinds of problems. Although it doesn't say beta on it, but 4 people have been invited and only 2 people are here. If this was Apple's platform, that wouldn't be an issue.
No, it would either work or it just wouldn't work. There'd be nobody sitting here or all 4 of us.
Yeah, very true. And you'd have to pay for access or something.
It might be sitting there saying waiting for activation for 14 hours, like on the original iPhone.
Well, very true, very true. I think maybe next week we should maybe try Ustream or something like that. Maybe we'll look into using a different
different medium.
Yeah, but then I suppose that doesn't stream to YouTube very easily. Who knows? We'll work that out before the next week and see what we can come up with. All right, so we also have, well, the iWatch, which Jay mentioned briefly there. This is their first big peripheral for the iPhone. It's possibly going to be released in about probably 6 months, in which time Samsung will have put out 4 or 5 other smartwatches and a whole host of adverts just saying how great they are. And Apple aren't, and how Apple are just copying them, which is what they've been doing with the 6 Plus quite regularly with their actually quite funny videos.
They've actually been quite witty this time.
Yeah, they seem to have employed a comedian instead of whatever else they happened to have working for them at the time. So the iWatch is quite controversial, if anything. I've seen all kinds of reports from police saying they will pull people over if they are wearing an iWatch, to people saying that it'll last about 2 hours, given the size of it. The battery's got to be ridiculous, and some people just don't like that interface, saying that it's it's just so difficult to actually have to click something because you have to use the dial and zoom in and zoom out and all that kind of stuff. It does look a lot more complicated than maybe what Samsung's done, but then Samsung have got there first and managed to get the quick and easiest interface onto a watch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, as a watch collector of normal watches, because I don't like smartwatches per se, I think it looks absolutely hideous. There was a lot of talk, oh, it's going to kill Swiss watches. No, that won't replace anybody's Swiss watch. In the land, I mean, what would they say? It was only $350. So in the land of watches, it's nothing from a cost point of view. But in the land of smartwatches, it's obviously quite expensive. I didn't like the way it looked, and I think one of the things you need to see is smartwatches. The first ones, the Google, was it Google Wear? Is it Android Wear?
Yeah,
they're square ones. No one really liked them. Everybody was saying, yeah, we're going to wait for the Moto 360, going to wait for the Moto 360. Then there was the LG Watch R was announced. Again, that looks like a watch. Now, I think the beauty of both of those is they look like watches. When you're not using them for their other technology, they are actually a watch. You don't want something that sits there and looks like a Star Trek communicator sitting on your wrist, I don't think. And I mean, I've got a lot of watches, watches that are far bigger than the Apple Watch. One of the downsides I think they've got with it, they've got two different sizes, both of them too small. For a square watches wear small, look small. They needed to go bigger. I'm wearing a 56mm watch here, and it's big, yes, but I don't get people going, God, he's got a clock on his wrist.
Let's have a look. So use the Hangout while we can.
I mean, it's big, but it's not massively so. It's 17mm thick. It would still go under a shirt pocket, a shirt cuff, in a suit, just. So it's. I think I actually think there's a possibility that watch will never see the market in its current form.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jay chimed in there saying that it's never going to kill the Swiss watch either. He doesn't believe, and he loves the vintage Rados. Yeah,
Rados, nice watches. That's one other problem. Make it waterproof. Now, one of the things I previously said when I talked about my smartwatch, I've got the Casio G-Shock one. It is a G-Shock primarily. That also has, that also has. It's a 200-meter waterproof watch. You can wear it for any activity, and you can also get your text messages, emails. It tells you got a full phone call coming in. It does what you want, and it's actually a watch as well, primarily a watch.
Doesn't really do. I didn't know it had the Bluetooth connectivity in it as well.
Mine's got Bluetooth. Yeah. I've got there's several now with Bluetooth. They even do an analog one now that actually looks very similar to this one, but has Bluetooth. And it's got a little couple of Bluetooth dial and digital dials on it, and it works nicely. Sweet. But the one that I'm most interested in, and one of the reasons I'm thinking of not changing back to iPhone, is I like the LG Watch R. It looks nice.
Yeah, Jay was saying the Watch R looks lovely. They did a great job with the bezel.
Yes, because it's got a bezel like we would have on similar to what we'd have on a diver's watch. So it's something that watch owners are used to.
Yeah. Not that anyone uses those to count their air pressure.
No, but I use them when I'm cooking.
Oh, yeah.
Oddly. Use it to set your timer. So it tells you how long you've got to go.
So Jay is looking forward to the smartwatches, for one that's actually going to be smart. He wants some sort of wrist tech to connect to data, GPS, and have a couple of sensors for your heart rate and step counter. I'll just scroll up there. That you don't need to drag a phone with you. This was the Gear S then. I had to play with that out at IFA, and it was I quite liked it, to be honest. Seemed a bit heavy on the interface, but never worry. He also said make it waterproof, and then you can go swimming. There's a killer. You need to drag a phone/tablet for the smart bit to work.
I think he was talking about my Casio one. So when you haven't got that, you've just got a watch.
Oh, yeah. Right, I see. Okay.
Well, I suppose you answered that. Samsung have just bought out, probably they've got it in about 20 different screen sizes as well, I should imagine. They're one with the SIM card in it, haven't they?
That's the Gear S, yeah.
So you can make phone calls and all the other stupidness that you might want. I think, isn't there an upgrade coming to Android Wear, in that those that have GPS sensors will have it enabled soon, so they'll be able to act kind of as a standalone mode for step counting, fitness tracking, that sort of thing, I believe.
Couldn't tell you, to be honest. I think I hadn't noticed that at all with all the Apple crap going on.
Yeah, I think it was just about the week before. I think it was in the Sony announcement for the Z3, because they've also got the Smartwatch 3, which is Android Wear based, and that has got a GPS sensor on board it, so that will be able to do things like step counting and fitness tracking, that sort of malarkey.
Okay, yeah. That seems to be all the rage at the moment. I don't know if people actually use it. I suppose when we went out to IFA, one of the ladies who was there, Emma, I think her name was, I can't remember now. She had just a basic pedometer on her wrist because she knew she was going to a trade show, so she wanted to count the amount of steps that she was taking. And I figured that was such a a good way to do it, because when you go to a trade show, you spend your entire day on your feet walking around, and it is kind of interesting to see just how many calories that you've burnt over the course of the day. So that kind of thing, just running away in the background, would be great for most people, even if they're not too interested. Being able to just have a quick flick at it, just might garner a little bit of interest. However, it is a bit annoying that every single company seems to be trying to trumpet this technology, their health reading technology, as new and innovative. Like even when we went out to Acer, they were really chuffed with their smartwatches and their health sensors and things, and really trying to push it. Samsung had just done that recently before that, and LG are obviously going to jump on it as well, and Apple now have their Apple Health thing, which people are noticing popping up on their phones with iOS 8 update.
Well, or not, because they all got pulled from the App Store today.
Oh, did they?
There's a bug. All of the health things got pulled. The Apple Health things got pulled from the App Store because there's a bug with it with iOS 8. So they all don't exist currently.
Oh, so that's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I would say about the fitness thing, working in central London, you do see a huge number of people with fitness trackers or smart bands on of some kind. One could suggest it's kind of the new, people don't go out drinking after work anymore, and that sort of, less people go out, getting on it every night after work, and they go out and they go to the gym. Everybody says, oh yes, I've got to get off, I've got to get to the gym, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing this sport. I think people are being more health conscious now. So. Yeah,
they are, yeah. Well, I suppose it depends on the city. I think in London they are. In Belfast they couldn't give a hoot. Most people who have an iPhone here don't use any of the features that are inside it. They only have an iPhone as a status symbol. And whenever you tell them they can do things, they look at you in shock. Like navigation, they don't know that on a smartphone you can do navigation. And they're setting up their 20-year or 10-year-old in-car sat-nav that doesn't have any of the new roads that they've built in the last 10 years, whereas they have their iPhones sitting there not being used. And it's like, well, press that button and tell it where you want it to go. Like, no, I'll just use this tiny joystick to work my way through letter by letter.
I have to say, there was a girl at work the other day who was printing off a map from Google so that she could find her way to a meeting, and I said, she's sitting there with a Galaxy S4, and I said, you know that your phone has got Google Maps on it? Oh, God, yeah, it has, yeah. So, yeah, there we are.
Jay chimed in there with, the funny thing is that the Dick Tracy watch phone was with us about 5 years ago. And now we have the Nano Micro SIM. Why has it taken so long? I suppose that was like the LG M500.
There was one that Orange sold, wasn't there, where you pulled out of the buckle, you pulled a little stylus that you could then tap on the screen.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a lovely thing. And it was ridiculously expensive.
Oh, maybe it was £500 actually. That's why I thought it was called the 500. Yeah. I just remember the price, right. Shouting at your wrist is questionable. He says, and it was Emma. Sorry, Emma, if you happen to be listening.
Yes, I've seen a lot of people doing that with their, what are they called, the Galaxy Gear, shouting at their wrist when they're driving along. Oh, dear.
I love it. I use it all the time now. I think it's actually safer than activating my in-car. Well, I've got another car now, actually, my old in-car. I used to have to press a button on the dashboard to turn on the voice...
recognition thing?
Yeah, the in-car calling. So now I just do that while I'm driving. I suppose I have to take one hand off the wheel, which you will have to do anyway to adjust the air conditioning, because that was the thing. It was in, was it the Daily Mail on Wednesday? The police were talking about how it's going to be illegal to use the iWatch at the wheel of the car, because you have to take a hand off the wheel in order to activate it.
To rotate the little dial thing and then find your thing, pan around. And...
Well, that's why I did a little bit of digging into exactly how this iWatch works. That they did show off, but it didn't click with me how difficult that's going to be to use it at the wheel of a car. Whereas the Galaxy Gear, it's really simple. everything pops up and you just hit it once and it does whatever you need it to do, or there's shortcuts on the top and you can voice activate it, which is really handy. But then I suppose Siri will be on there, so it'll be able to perform most functions. I think
if the server's not busy.
Yes, yeah, true, yeah.
So that's one thing I found. Google Now is so much more reliable than Siri.
It is, yes, and it's much more informative as well. There was someone who posted on Reddit today that they put a reminder into their phone to cancel Amazon Prime at a certain date, and it actually went ahead and posted a link to the website so that they could do it themselves without being prompted to do that. It was just Google now knew to do that. It was that clever. Yeah. I can't imagine any other service right now being able to do something.
I had a similar thing. I got 3 months free Google Now movie subscription with the TV I bought. So I said, right, Google. I said, okay, Google, remind me to cancel my Google Now TV subscription. And it popped up and said, there you go, and it gave me the link to cancel it when it came up for the month.
So right, so it understands the word cancel and subscription and does its best to find whatever you're looking for.
Yes, very clever, very clever. Look, you see, in my car, I've just put a new car stereo in, which actually holds, it's made by Sony, and it actually holds your phone and uses your phone as the screen of the head unit, which is quite clever. And the added advantage of that is now I just say, okay, Google, and it does what I want it to.
That's clever.
So it is quite, it's a bit smart, yeah. But I have to have it on any screen. I have to have it in American, so I have to say, okay, Google.
Yeah.
And it understands you. Yeah.
Yeah, I tried it on something the other day, and it wouldn't work because it's only available in America at the time. But I can't remember what it was now. There are a few features on that we can't use in the UK.
Yes.
Which is a bit of a pain. And I find the Google Now cards to be quite sparse. I try to use them as much as I can, but it doesn't really give me too many options.
I went away to Stratford-upon-Avon a couple of weekends ago for my birthday, and it was brilliant. It popped up with places to go, and popped up with lots of different things that we should do and see while we were there. It was brilliant.
Yeah, Jay appears to be getting hassled by shard security at the moment. I wish we could patch this in.
Yes, that would have been excellent, yeah. See him being frisked while on screen. What are you doing here, sir? Come with us, please.
Yeah, with his secret link up and his headphones on and things. Yeah, that'd be pretty swish. So, if you're tempted to go back over to the iPhone, do you think the iWatch would do anything for you, or are you just going to ignore it and wait for the iWatch 2?
I'm just going to ignore it, I think. I'm hoping it doesn't come out because I think it looks... For someone that's supposed to have such wonderful taste like Johnny Ive, and he's supposed to have such wonderful taste, such minimalist taste, it's the least minimal thing I've ever seen. It's got far too many controls, and it's a funny shape. Never mind.
Yeah.
So no, I don't think I'll be going near that.
I think it looks pretty good. I do. When you compare it to the Galaxy Gears and Sony smartwatches, I think it looks really good. Maybe not to the LG or the Motorola's, but it's in there. I think it's playing the game a bit. There's a lot of people online who are advising people not to buy it because the iWatch 2 will be so much better, like the iPad 2 was and the iPhone 3G or whatever. But advising people not to buy something means that Apple will go, well, we're not going to make another one then because it didn't sell.
Quite possibly, yeah.
And it won't have NFC in, as I think.
No, it has got NFC in it. It's got NFC, but only for the payment, just like the phone. So you can't use it to connect to anything else. You can't use it to pair with the phone. So that's great. You couldn't use it to pair with my car stereo like I can with my Android phones. So.
Yeah, but maybe it's a security thing. They've lost too many of Jennifer Lawrence's pictures that they Oh no, they're opening up Apple Pay, and I wonder if Jennifer Lawrence is going to happily register her credit card details with Apple Pay.
Yeah.
That may not be, and having all
I
her
don't think it's been
purchases exposed.
fully proved that they all came from iCloud yet. I think
No.
some of the pictures people were holding Galaxy phones that they were taking. Not that I've seen any of them, obviously. Not that I've searched for any of these pictures, but some of them were holding Android phones. So how they've come off iCloud, I don't know.
Well, yes, maybe they have both of them just for the superior Galaxy S camera, maybe. I don't know. Or no, they were using Samsung at the Oscars, weren't they?
Yeah.
They were using the Note 3, wasn't it, to take selfies?
They were using a Note 3, yeah. Jennifer Lawrence was in that picture, wasn't she, of course, as well?
She was, but that was one of the rumors I heard, that the virus or the bug or the security that lapse that happened could have been on the Oscars Wi-Fi network at the time.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm.
But then
That might make sense. Yeah, if it was in the plane, they could get the yeah.
Okay, so there you go. You know how to hack this. Okay, we'll send you the next Oscars.
No, I don't know how to hack it. No.
Bono as well. Bono has
annoyed everybody by appearing on everybody's Apple devices, whether we wanted him or not.
This U2 album. This is a bit of a contentious reason. A lot of people are happy about it. I'm gusted because I can't stand U2. But yeah, they have direct access. So this appeared on your phone?
It appeared on my iPad. I actually went to see if it had appeared as well, and it had, because they made a big thing, Song and Dance, first album in 5 years or something like that. So I thought, well, yeah, let's go and have a listen. Wish they hadn't made it. Yeah, that's it. Not going to say anymore.
And did you delete it immediately, or?
Yes, I followed the guide you can have to delete the thing and never have it darken your doorway once more.
Yeah, right. I think Jay might have put something up about that on his site too.
Yes, the YouTube virus. Yes.
Yeah. So, well, that's one way to. Well, I suppose they didn't sell an album, but I wonder how much Apple paid them to be able to do that.
And yes, quite. I think on stage they mentioned something about $100 million. You pay us $100 million, you can do it. And Tim Cook said, yes, of course we will. And so I think it was probably somewhere in that region. Also today there was another story popped up that Bono is working with Apple to create a new format for digital music so that piracy is stopped and people will start paying for music again. Well, I think that was probably the wrong week for that story to come out.
Well, yeah, very true, yeah. And I think most people are being swayed over to the likes of Spotify and things, so they are paying for their music.
I'm using Google Play Music, All Access. It's lovely.
Yeah, I really like that. I only stopped it for the Samsung Galaxy S5 at 6 months free Deezer.
Yeah, I keep getting free 3 months here and there with everything I buy. I just bought a Chromecast, so I got 3 months free on that, so lovely.
Oh,
so, yeah. It's actually, if you buy a Chromecast, I suppose, I got it on when they were selling them cheap for 20 quid. So I got 3 months worth, 30 quid's worth for 20 quid for buying a Chromecast, so quite good.
Do you get that over and over again? If you buy another Chromecast, can you get another one?
Well, if there's an offer on. So not always an offer on. So it's if you register a Chromecast before this time, then you can get 3 months free. So I keep managing that.
Neat. And it's funny whenever Google actually give away something. Like I know they gave away Big recently, the Tom Hanks movie, and Ice Age. People were happy. But as Jay's pointed out here, that U2's album is obviously a spam album or a spalbum.
I think the thing with it isn't just a case of you went to the iTunes store and said, yep, I'll have that for free. It actually appeared in your music library as something you owned. It was just the wrong way to handle it. They should have said, if you want it, here it is. Not, it's in your phones now. Great, thanks. Right.
So with this technology, I'm thinking about those little emails that you've seen where a hacked off member of staff posts, who was it? Was it United Airlines? posted a funny picture on Twitter on the United Airlines or US Airlines Twitter account of a woman doing something with a model of a plane. That's what it was.
Yes, I have heard of that one, yes.
So imagine a disgruntled Apple employee decides to spread a video to every iPhone in the world, and it just appears there of something. You know, Jennifer Lawrence.
Jennifer Lawrence, yeah.
But it's also a horrible, horrible thought for advertising as well. You could end up just with, you know, advert videos sitting in your media player on your phone. And you go in to watch something, and then all of a sudden, like, even if you've converted a movie yourself and you're playing through them, you might get ads in between them that are resident on your phone in between your media. That does scare me, that, you know, they have that direct access to it to be able to put whatever they want on your phone whenever they want it.
Well, to be fair, they weren't putting it on your phone. They were just adding it to your music library. So you could only see it if you saw purchases you didn't have on your phone that were in the cloud, because obviously you've got the iTunes in the cloud, but you can re-download your music again. So you'd only see it then. So it wasn't actually actively putting it on your phone. It would just be visible on your phone as a purchased item.
But then if you got sync set up, it'll download, because I know my wife had it there.
It would download onto your computer, and as a newly purchased item, if you then plugged into your computer or synced with iTunes over Wi-Fi while you were sleeping or whatever, it would then end up on your phone. Yeah.
Ah, right. Okay.
So there was a way. There's a way to. Yeah. So Jay's raised a very good point. Apple do a 12 Days of Christmas, so you get apps, you get music, you get TV shows, things like that, and that's good. But actually saying this is now yours, you're having it, you're not given the option. There's not an opt-in. So yeah, it's a difference to it, and that is a good way that Apple do it, and then they show the good, and they've done the bad this time. So yeah. And apparently there's a hidden setting in iOS, iAds, depending on your location. Yes, that's something you can turn off. It's been there since iOS 6, I think.
But it's not turning it off. I think it just says limit ads as opposed to remove ads.
I don't know. Look, you talk amongst yourselves, viewer and Gareth.
That's no problem at all. Well, we have another phone that we should really cover as well, because we haven't quite managed to do that. It was launched a wee while ago, and it certainly is one that I'm very excited about, and I'm really considering purchasing. But I can't decide between the two. One was the Samsung Galaxy Note 4, and the other is the Samsung Galaxy Note Edge. Two exceptionally exciting devices to me. I have the Note 3, which I don't use for good reason, and I have a Note 2 that I just broke last week that I do use. I just find the battery lasts a lot longer on the Note 2 than it does on the Note 3, despite the fact the Note 2 is a full 2 years older than the Note 3, I think. So the Note 3 I only just got quite recently. But yes, the Note 4 is coming upon us. I still don't think there's actually a release date yet. That was a car horn for some reason. Must be a taxi. That's what it is for the nurses across the road. And the release date wasn't announced. They just said September. So we're going to start seeing it filter in. Although I'm just checking here, and they're saying September 19th, which sounds like a funny date. That's familiar. That date.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
In which case, it probably wouldn't be a good day to launch a phone tomorrow, I don't think.
Well, I think I could just quite happily march around the phones for you. I'd have to order it online, wouldn't I?
You probably would, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jay's just raised a good point. Galaxy Note Edge. I mean, that's getting a bit too close to U2 again. The Edge from U2.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, the difference between the Samsung Galaxy Note 4 and the Samsung Galaxy Note Edge is a tapered edge to the phone itself, which has like a screen on the side that allows you to have quick access to certain icons or like a ticker tape going along the side with any notifications that are required. They've actually done this before. I remember the Samsung Continuum, I think it was. Yeah, it had like a second screen below the buttons that would show little notifications, and it sold very poorly. But obviously that idea is it's sitting there in their mind, and they want to go with that and try and get it in there. But it's also just showing off the ability of the curved screen as opposed to being two separate screens. And for that, it looks tremendous. But I don't know whether or not I would actually go for the Edge over the Note 4. It's a battery worry for me with that ticker tape running.
Hasn't it got a larger battery though as well?
It does, but I think that it needs a larger battery anyway, because the Note 3's battery wasn't great. The Note 2's battery was, because the screen wasn't as demanding as the Note 3. The Note 4 has a more demanding screen again.
That's got 2K, isn't it? It's got a 2K screen, isn't it?
It does, yeah. So I do speculate the battery life will be
pants.
Yeah. But it's a Super HD AMOLED, isn't it? Yeah, at 2K.
Yes. Yeah. 1440p in short. As a left-handed person, I don't like things which are asymmetrical, like the Note Edge, because they don't work for me. Because the screen's got the extra bit on the wrong side.
Yeah.
So
it'll be very easy to hit those buttons. You do need that extra.
It's handist, so I don't like that. One of the things, the iPhone 6 also has a curved screen. It curves around at the edge, so you can do a nice come in from the edge.
And you could use it upside down.
Yeah.
Thought about that.
As long as Samsung have unlocked all screen rotations within their ROM, which they probably haven't, to be fair. So.
Well, you're hacking. You can get in there. Jay has written in to say isn't the Edge going to be limited edition?
Yeah, there's only one of them.
Currently.
Yeah, in YouTube.
But the Edge has a slightly smaller screen.
I think it
does, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's probably 5.6 inches, isn't it? Because they've done 5.5. The Edge, the Note 4's 5.7, so they need one in the middle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I didn't manage to get hands-on with this in Berlin. I was a bit gutted about that, but the queues were ridiculous. For the first time ever, they had cordoned off a whole area, and you had to queue to get into it. And they had all the Edge, the Note 4, and the watches available to play with in there if you waited your turn. But then the Berlin one was IFA is open to the public, so they had to do something like that to control the millions of people that were traveling through there. Whereas the likes of Mobile World Congress, there's not that many people going through, so they can afford to lay them out for everyone to play with. It's got a 16 megapixel camera on it, and I'm quite busting to see how good that is, because I know the camera on the Note 3 is fantastic. The camera on the S5 was second to none. It really was. I know people say the G3 has the best camera of the generation, but having played with them both, I'm still inclined. G3 has the laser, but the S5 just, I think, tipped it there. It just was faster and better.
Yeah. As you are aware from previous podcasts, I'm not a fan of Samsung's customizations, nor am I a fan of LG's customizations particularly, but I'm less of a fan of Samsung, so neither phone really floats my boat, to be honest.
Yeah, you're more into the Sony Z3.
Well, did you get a chance to play with that when you were at IFA, or?
I did, but it was in German.
Was it?
It was, as was the other one I went up to. The tablets weren't, but the phones were.
Well, I will be playing with a Z3 next week, I think it is. So, and then I've actually got one coming. So, I've got the bigger Z3, so not the compact. I've got one of them on its way to me.
Ah, right, okay. Yeah, how do we play with that as well? I wasn't too interested in the compact because it was
It
just...
was stick sized, wasn't it? Let's be honest.
It was, yeah. But see the tablet the Z3 tablet, wasn't it called? I can't remember.
Tablet 8 or something like that. Z3 Tablet 8 or yeah.
Yeah, at the moment I'm putting together a series of posts. I've done my favorite TV from IFA, my favorite phone from IFA, which was the Alcatel Hero 2. Of all the phones I
Yes.
saw, that was one phone that just, it blew me away, to be honest, for everything that it is and the price that it is hopefully going to be. If it's much more expensive, then I'll go and readdress that post and turn it into the Lenovo vibe. But that tablet Z8.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Z3 8-inch or something like
That's
that. Yeah.
that's the one. Yeah, that was fantastic.
Yeah. It does look
Just
nice.
picking it up. It was wafer thin. It was lighter than air, but it's a powerhouse.
Mm.
I loved that tablet. It really swept me. Like I do like that Samsung Galaxy Tab S 8.4, but
Mm-hmm.
the Z3 8-inch version is something else. That's a tablet to be going for if you're looking for an
Yeah.
8-inch at the moment.
Mm. More so than an iPad Mini, you would suggest.
Yeah,
You don't like
iPad
that.
minis are useful for keeping doors open and stuff like that, or
Okay. Yeah.
eating your dinner off, chopping
Yep.
up vegetables on.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Doesn't run Android, so.
Yeah. Jay's just suggested another one, the Panasonic Lumix CM1 phone, which is a camera with a phone in it, which is the other way around to what we normally see. It does look. It's got a 1-inch CMOS sensor, I think.
Oh yeah.
It's a proper camera that's had Android phone tacked onto it. If I say proper camera, yes, proper camera rather than a phone which has got a decent camera. So it does look interesting.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Mm.
Ooh. Oh yeah, we'll have to get one of these in.
Mm. There we go.
Oh, the Panasonic Lumix CM1 won't be coming to the UK.
Of course it won't. Why would we get something nice like that? But it might not.
Jay.
Perhaps they know something we don't. Perhaps there won't be a UK for it to come to.
Oh, very, very true. Yes, Wales is going to.
Scotland will Wales will get it. Yeah.
Well, that's the point. Yeah, we'll be able to import devices through Scotland, won't we?
Well, depending on if they're a member of the EU or not.
Well, they can ally with
Anyway,
any.
let's not start that one.
They can move to Asia. Have the Hong Kong dollar.
Only France, Germany at the moment, apparently, for the CM1.
Nuts. Damn you, Panasonic. Damn you. All right. So what next? Phil, how do you feel about the LG G3?
The earphones that come with it are fantastic.
Excellent.
I got a G3 a few weeks ago now, and I read some reviews. It said it was great. I spoke to Gareth. He wasn't quite so keen on it. Matt said it was the greatest thing since sliced bread, and he loved his. Although I noticed he's using an HTC device again now, so perhaps he doesn't love it as much as he suggested.
But Matt's only just been allowed to use knives since getting out of hospital.
Yes, that's true. That's true. So I got it. It's still running on Android 4.4.2, which I ran for nearly a year on the Nexus 5, and it was okay. This thing is as buggy as can possibly be. It's always crashing apps. It's laggy. It's just all over the place, really. I haven't been impressed with it. It came with one of these. The wireless charging is absolutely awful. In its default state, you put it on there and it says, no, put it on the centre of the part. Well, I couldn't put it on much more centrally. Where do you want me to put it? So, but what I found is I've got one of these quick circle cases came with it, and I found that if you fold the front cover over the back and then put it on the wireless charger, it works perfectly.
Let's see.
That's it. So it's here, and then if you close it, you get a thing that tells you the time and it gives you the weather, and then you can obviously tap the screen and it turns off.
Your connection is horrible right now.
My connection is horrible, but the tapping the screen is quite nice. The default launcher on it, I find it absolutely hideous. For some reason, LG, who made the Nexus 5 for Google last year, decided, right, we're going to create a launcher, and what we're going to do is we're going to forget about Google Now, and we're going to create our own version of it that's inferior in every way and is really intrusive.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Yeah.
So the first thing I did is I put the Google Now launcher on there, the Google Experience launcher, and that's a lot better. And then I found the phone app was, when you've used the Nexus 5, it's got a lovely dialer where you can type. So you can type things in and it will find things close to you and tell you what's there and give you the phone numbers and everything. It's brilliant. So I managed to put that on, and the People app, because again, those apps are not any good on this device. So I basically turned it into a Nexus. And also, I know when you had it, you had some problems with battery life.
Well, yeah, battery life and heat, which were they were connected.
So what I found out was basically the version of Google. What is it? Which one is it? It's Google Play Services that's on there. It leaves us a stub of the original version. So there's basically two versions of Google Play Services running, and they're fighting each other. And there's multiple versions of the Google Search app on there, and they're constantly fighting each other. If you get rid of them, you actually finally get some decent battery life. So mine is now using, how much is it used? Quite a lot, because Jay's been, I mean, lots of messages from Jay this evening. No, 1.4% per hour. So yeah, it's brilliant now you've done that, but you shouldn't have to do that with the phone. It's just not finished at all. They shouldn't have put it out to market with software like that. Where's 4.4.4? Could say the same thing about Sony. The Sony Z1's got it, the Z2 hasn't. Doesn't make any sense. Yeah, they having come from iPhone and having used Nexus, where you get updates quickly, to suddenly see updates just not even coming through. And now it's being restricted by carrier, because although this is an unlocked device, even though I've got a Vodafone SIM in it, I'm about 3 versions back on the software update compared to others.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not overly impressed. Never mind.
Well, I
screen's lovely when you've got it off, because if you turn it on, the battery just dies.
Yeah, that is the big drawback, and given the battery woes that most people are going to have, they have to start turning everything off to be able to get it through the day. I came to the G3 from the S5, so I was able to do really a direct comparison between the two, and I really wanted to prefer the G3, but the S5 easily stole the race there, primarily because battery life. Both of them did overheat greatly. Oh, I am indeed. Thank you very much.
Yeah, the heat issue was the heat. They can just suddenly get hot for no apparent reason.
Yeah. Thank you.
One of the reasons I decided to get a new phone was I was quite happy with my Nexus 5, but in the summer I was using it. I had quite a complicated car stereo which used my Nexus 5 to power it. So you plug it in via HDMI and then you'd have it all up on the screen and you could control it through the screen. Brilliant. So a 7-inch screen on the dash. The trouble is it overheated. So I did quite a lot of driving in the summer down through France. So to make sure that I had everything working, I had my Nexus 5 down near the air conditioning duct, down near my clutch foot, just so that it would get some air conditioning air on it to keep it cool. But if I was using the sat-nav too much, it would still overheat and reboot. So what I then had is now iPod Touch in the glove box. I could plug in and get TomTom working on that. And then once that had overheated, I could then plug the Nexus 5 back in and have some of that back again. So it was a bit of a complicated. So what I did is I got a new phone, and this one just overheats worse. There's no way of putting it. You use it for 5 minutes and the thing's red hot.
Yeah, it is. It gets a bit insane. You're back with more?
Would you like this instead?
What do you mean instead?
You want it as well?
Well, I've got a choice between chocolate cake or
Toasted coconut.
toasted coconut.
I'll have the chocolate cake if that's okay, Gareth.
Phil wants this, so we'll just leave it here beside the toasted coconut. Thanks. Sorry. You see,
Okay.
we've got a new coffee machine, so we're spoiling ourselves with this fantastic brew. The Gagia coffee machine. I don't know if that means anything to anyone, but it's superb.
Very nice, very nice. My girlfriend and the dog actually, thankfully, have been well, the dog's been very well missed, and the girlfriend hasn't bought me tea, which is a bit of a shame.
Well, you'll have to do something about that.
I'm going to text her.
Do you want to go on Peter?
No, best not. She might listen to this anyway.
Oh, right, okay. Hello.
She might do. She actually read one of my reviews the other day, so that's something. That's nice of her. That's the first one she's read.
Well, yeah. I get my wife complaining that I spend a couple of hours sitting writing a review, or posts, or anything in general. But then she'll send me a link to something going, can you try and get this into review? Like there's a Bluetooth speaker I set a post up today that has colors that pulse with the sound, and it's an alarm clock as well. It does sunrise and sunset and lights up the whole room and turns into a disco ball, that sort of thing. So she very much wants me to review that so that she can have a play with it. So she's going to review it. Oh,
yeah. Sounds lovely.
We'll get her to do that. Yes, so the G3 versus the S5, I did prefer the S5. The G3 just felt like it wouldn't survive a drop. The S5 was a bit more robust, but the back of the G3 felt hollow, and that it just wouldn't take a knock at all. They were both the same price, and the S5 had the water resistive properties to it. And that was something that the G3 just couldn't hold a candle to it, I don't think, in the long run. And as you said about that notification system, that was a real pain in the ass.
Yeah.
It would remind you of the most ridiculous things at the most ridiculous times. At 3 o'clock in the morning, you get a beepity beep, and it was telling you that it would learn your text language or something like that.
But I do have to say, the LG keyboard is very nice. I'm impressed with that.
No, I am. I can't actually.
It worked quite. No, yeah, that's if you're saying the keyboard was quite nice, there's not a lot else you can say, is there? I was in two minds whether to get the Z2 or the G3, and I thought, well, there's bound to be the Z3 coming out, so I'll get the G3. Kind of wish I'd waited, full stop. But
well, to be honest, you would have made the mistake that a lot of people were making, because it's at the top of every list on every website of the best.
And I don't know why.
Yeah. I'd still rate the Note 3 as better, even though they're in a different class.
Well, they're not, are they? Because they're actually the same size. The Note 3 and it are of a size. So,
that's a very good point, actually.
So the only difference is one has got a stylus and one hasn't, and you can get a G3 with a stylus if you really want a lower spec one, oddly. But the G3 stylus.
That's right. They did that. I've even forgotten about that as well. The 32 gigabyte version has 3 gigabytes of RAM.
Yes, well, yes, the ones we don't get in this country have 3 gigs of RAM, and I think that will probably answer a lot of the problems, because this one seems to have a RAM eating memory problem, because I'm sitting here, I've only got 300 megs of RAM left, and I've only got 5 apps open. Never mind.
After using the G3, I wanted to look into some other cameras and some other technologies for cameras, and I requested. I think it's about a year old now, but this doohickey here, the Acer Liquid S2, which has the ring flash on it,
Yeah.
just because I wanted to see how a Ring Flash does. And this is running 4.2.
Yeah.
And it's got I think it's a quad-core 2.2 inside it with 2 gigs of RAM. And it's a dog. Oh, God, it's a dog. I think my Nexus 1 ran better than it back in the day.
I think KitKat has actually made things so much more fluid that when you go back to a previous version that seemed good, it was not wonderful.
Well, I am quite happy with that in that I can do things with the SD card. I'm finding an awful lot of apps are incompatible now with KitKat.
Yeah.
You know, camera apps and things like that, not being able to save photos to the SD card, that sort of thing, and it's really bugging me. I have the Arcos Gamepad 2 over there, which is going to continue to run 4.2 because it only has 8 gigabytes of internal memory, so you need to move everything over onto the SD card, all games and things, so you can have a bit of space. And that's a real problem, I think, with KitKat, and they need to get that sorted out. I know what they've done is for the betterment of the OS in the long run, but yeah, I think that's something that they need to address really quickly because it's hacking me and a lot of other people off. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think I haven't experienced many problems with it because I'm only a relatively newcomer to Android, and my first one was the Nexus, which didn't have an SD card. I've actually found with the G3, it's only a 16 gig device. I had a 32 gig Nexus 5, but suddenly putting a 128 gig card in it, whoa, I'm off and away. I can put loads of music on. It's brilliant. You're right. What they've done is for a security basis, and if you actually, I don't know if you've had a look at what Android L is currently presenting, but it's essentially got a lot of Samsung security. So you've got the Samsung Knox and SE Linux in enforcing mode. So rooting it's going to be a hell of a job. Doing anything with it once you've rooted it basically isn't going to work. So they are trying to make it a more secure platform. iPhone has been quite secure for a fair while. Even doing things like encrypting the device for business purposes isn't always wonderful. It might just reboot and go into a boot loop and not work again sometimes. So they need to sort out the kind of security part and get it all their ducks in line. So I can see what they've done, and I think we're just going to have to come to the acceptance that the ROM space is going to be there for installing stuff, and your media will have to go on the card. That's about it, really.
Well, there is one other solution for it, and it's a little drastic, I suppose, but they could just stop doing 16 and even 32 gigabyte phones. Give people the storage that they would require. You know, 4K is going to be a big thing. iPhone 6 and 6 Plus are available in 16 gigabyte flavor. What use is that to anyone nowadays with increased bit rates on music and video? People still not having a data network that's reliable enough to stream all the time wherever they need. Even Wi-Fi's. I think Wi-Fi's getting shittier every year. You're losing connection. It's getting more and more complicated to keep a connection.
My 4G signal in this building where I'm in is faster than the broadband, significantly. I'm getting 60 megabits per second on the 4G here, but because it's an Apple device, I can't use it for anything. So never. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, some of these decisions that are made by the manufacturers are obviously based on where they feel the business is. Apple are based in the States. Their primary focus is on the States. Over there, you've got ubiquitous Wi-Fi pretty much everywhere you go. You can get on it. It's free. It's good. It's fast. People are streaming music. They're streaming all of their content. Over here, that's less so. Our mobile networks are actually, I think, pretty good, but we've got very limited bandwidth as well. for some reason I've managed to go through EE, so apparently overreading on their data usage. So I managed to go through 20 gigs last month doing nothing across 2 different SIM cards.
That's pretty good.
And I used my phone more, and that's only got 12 gigs and didn't run out, but that's on Vodafone, so never mind. Yeah, the 16 gig doesn't make any sense to me on the iPhone.
And it's down to memory prices as well. You know, the actual flash memory doesn't cost very much at all.
No.
I have my Chromebook 2 weeks ago. It's got 16 gigabytes on board, and I bought from the States 128 gigabyte SSD, the little dingy ones. One of these actually, if you can see that.
Yeah.
128 gigs. That cost me $40, so about 30 quid.
Yeah.
Popped it open, stuck it in, did a restore of Chrome, and I now have 118 gigabytes on my Chromebook, which is brilliant. It means that I don't have to worry about storing anything whenever I go away. I don't have to take USB sticks or SD cards and things like that. It can actually limit that, so that can be my storage hub. But why that can't be in the phone is really beyond me. It must cost them pennies whenever Apple are buying up 16 gigabyte memory cards to put them into the phones. It must cost them pennies. Why can't they just put a few more pennies to those and make 32 gigabyte the lowest standard for the cheapest iPhone? And then they're charging. We saw the headlines last year. Google got caught up in it as well as Apple, that they were really, what was about £100 of a difference for 16 or 32 gigabytes of
it was,
of phone storage.
This year it's actually changed, so your price per gigabyte is actually lowest for the top one, and then second for the 64 gig. The most expensive per gigabyte is the 16 gig, because now you're going from 16 to then 64, and then from 64 to 128, so you're getting a big jump for actually the same money as last time, but a much bigger jump. So.
But do you think that's more for phone contracts where people are picking up, they want just the cheapest iPhone, they're sticking in 16 gigabytes, so they'll sell that at a higher rate, you know?
Well, I don't know, I'm picking up, what have I bought? I bought a 16 gig iPhone 6, and that's cost me £534, I think something like that. I think it's 539, and a 64 gigabyte 6 plus, and that's £700. So you basically take 100 off it, so it'll be 600. So I think you pay 60 quid to go from 16 gigs to, I'm not quite sure how much it is, but I think it's about 60 quid from 16 gigs to 64. Actually, that's not bad value.
Do you think?
Even well, what did my 64 gig memory card cost on the high street? Cost 40 quid.
64 gigabyte one.
Yeah.
But Amazon are doing them now for what, 23 or something?
Yeah, but instant people do if you want a memory card there and then, you're going to want the instant gratification of just walking into a shop and buying it, if you can find a shop that hasn't closed down or something like that.
Yeah.
Especially for mobile phones, that would be.
But then they're charging this without the expandable storage anyway, and Samsung don't charge quite as much for their higher models, but they include the micro SD card slot, I think.
But do they do different size storage on Samsung? I don't think they do they?
They do 16 and 32, yeah.
Not on all the phones, though.
Well, no, some of them don't.
The Note does, maybe.
The Tab S 8.4, I was looking into getting that. You can only get the 16 gigabyte here. The 32 gigabytes available. I think it's exclusive to Verizon or something like that in the States.
They copied LG.
But yeah, it's more difficult to track down 32 gigabytes. But then the Note 4 is only available in 32 gigabytes. They're not doing a 16 gigabyte version because, quite honestly, who wants it?
Well, with a Samsung, I mean, with a 16 gigabyte, don't you come out with something like 4 gigabytes free after you've finished setting the thing up?
Yeah, yeah, it is. Well, no, I think it's about 11 gigabytes free, like, but it is a bit
No, I
ridiculous to
think
go
the
that
last
much.
one wasn't the S5 about 8. You had about 8 gigabytes left, I think, after you did a 16 gig setup. It was
Yeah, true.
something
Yeah,
ridiculous like that. Um,
but then with a 4K camera on board, you're going to need, if you
but
don't
your
have an
media
SD
will
card or your
offload.
SD card dies.
Yeah, but your media will offload to USD cards, so that's less of a worry. What is more of a worry is you need to get a memory card that's fast enough at that point, and then you're probably not talking the 22 quid
Oh no,
micro
I
SDs.
bought Samsung 32 gigabyte Evo micro SD card off Amazon for £21 delivered.
Yeah,
I think it was
that's the
Paul
fast one, is
Litchfield
it?
posting. Well, there's the I think it's the Pro after that that's even faster again. Maybe it's not Pro.
Yeah, because my one's the 150 megabits a second one, and then there's a 300 megabits a second one, but it's getting silly
Yeah.
money.
Well, it wasn't exactly silly money. I considered actually doing it, but then I
Oh, on the
thought,
high street, I mean.
will I need it? Oh yeah, on the high speed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But Amazon Prime delivered the next day.
They
That's
do.
always good. Saves your journey to the high street,
Yeah,
which is
that's
full of scrubbers anyway. Shit. Sorry.
true. Haven't heard that term in a long while.
No, it just
People
popped in there and
cleaning.
had to use it.
You mean people cleaning chewing gum off the footpath, obviously.
Yes,
Scrubbing.
yeah, cleaning the
Yeah,
streets.
yeah,
Scrubbing.
yeah.
Aye, so
Anyway, listeners' corner.
there was a question, and it was Matt sent it over, didn't he? I
Shall I
can't
find
remember.
it? I shall find it.
I think I have it, but I think you came up with the best answer there.
Do you think so? Oh,
Yeah, I
thank you
never
very
thought of
much.
that. But
Right, streaming audio. Here we go. Listener says, I'm looking for a way to stream music from my Android phone to my HiFi. Obviously, there are Bluetooth adapters out there, but the Bluetooth audio quality isn't great. There's Rocki, which is Wi-Fi, and apparently great audio quality, but you can only play locally stored music, not streams from radio or Spotify. Oh, sorry, yeah, radio or Spotify. Any ideas? So, shall I go for my controversial one?
yeah, well, actually, I'm gonna blast this one out because I'll be doing an unboxing on this in a couple of days. Initech, a company who have sent me over a few things in the past, are sending me the Bluetooth audio receiver that they do. I know Belkin do one of these as well, but you basically just plug in auxiliary and plug it into something else, and it picks up Bluetooth audio from your device and pumps it into that stereo or headphones or whatever, so you can broadcast whatever's on your phone. So it does stream, and I believe, I haven't actually fully played with it yet, but it should do all the apps on your phone, whether it be Spotify, the inbuilt music players, or video players, or whatever. So I want to use this in the car particularly and see if it works in with the voice recognition and all that kind of stuff. So I'll be testing it on that. But you go ahead with your suggestion.
My one takes a little bit of a bit of thinking about. If someone's got a reasonably complex hi-fi system, they're into their audio, one imagines they're going to have a bit of home cinema system built in as well. So there'll probably be a television or something plugged into their hi-fi as well. So let's go for Chromecast. Just stream it across that way.
Cheap and
It would
cheerful.
work. Cheap and cheerful. I've been quite impressed with Chromecast actually since I got it. Yeah, I think that's possibly an answer, and it's cheap to try as well.
Yeah. The Chromecast is an awesome little device. I don't see why. No one can give me a justifiable reason why they don't own one. Whenever you can pick them up for 18 quid off Amazon, that's every reason to be getting one.
And I said I picked mine up for 18 quid with 3 months worth of Google Play Music All Access, which basically means you've got access to every song ever. Pretty much. There's maybe a couple of exclusions, but you've got streaming.
The Beatles aren't there.
No, the Beatles aren't there. We had a party just after that at the house. We've got we got something. Bluetooth. We've got a Bluetooth stereo anyway. I can't think of it. It's not B&O. It's one of those sort of things though. Harman Kardon, I think it's like just through the music through that. Brilliant. Just picked a genre of music and it just played for 12 hours without stopping. Wonderful.
Okay.
Yeah. There we go. My suggestion.
Yeah. I think did Matt throw in a suggestion as well? Oh yes, when I was out at IFA, they showed us a little device. It was Panasonic built, and it looked a wee bit like a Western digital TV box, and you can plug it into anything, and you can stream anything to it. It was pretty nice. Matt did mention that, saying that he knows of the Panasonic thing that I can't remember what it was called.
He said a Panasonic thing, didn't he? Yeah.
Well, he says he's got the All 8. I'm going to quickly Google that and see if it's the same thing that I was looking at.
The other one that, of course, pops into mind is the Sonos, of course, if you want a full setup. But so you go for the Sonos, whichever it is, Play 3, so you get a speaker and a receiver and a bridge and that sort of thing.
Does Sonos not connect via ad hoc as opposed to infrastructure Wi-Fi wise?
You can do both now. They do one with the bridge, and you can also do it direct connect. I believe it's coming up now. So via the whichever one it is, I can't think what it's called. Wi-Fi direct, isn't it? Yeah. But obviously, then you lose certain connectivity on your phone for the duration of the music playing.
Yeah. So we need some
That wouldn't work
kind
wonderfully.
of Bluetooth streaming more so than Wi-Fi streaming then.
But the listener has said they're not a great fan of Bluetooth. I think Bluetooth has actually improved a lot since the early days. I've been quite impressed. I use Bluetooth streaming all the time and it doesn't really worry me, but I actually don't listen to much music. I'm an audiobook person, so with Audible. So.
Yeah. I'd agree with that as well. I don't actually stream very often either, and I thought it would be podcasts.
Yeah, it's podcasts and audiobooks for me, so sorry.
All right, we'll quickly mosey over to the bargain basement because time is ticking on.
Okay.
And we managed to get a pretty long phone podcast here out of
just you and me rambling. Yeah.
So these deals that I put in the show notes here are quite old, actually. I think I put them together 2 weeks ago, was it? But the deals actually so far seem to still be there. I'll click it through them. Yep. Mobilephonesdirect.co.uk are selling the new Moto G. That's the 4G version.
Is it?
I'm pretty sure it is.
Is it the new Moto G or the Moto G 4G?
It's the new Moto G. Is that not the 4G?
Not 4G then. No. The new Moto G does not have 4G.
Okay, well, I'll delete that out then. Never mind then. So next up, we have the Samsung Galaxy S4 Zoom Android phone. This is the camera one. It's got a big bulky camera on the back of it, Android on the front, and it looks just like a Samsung Galaxy, I think an S3, more so than an S4. Yeah. But it's £170 in Asda, or £169 in Asda, sorry. This is not 4G.
I actually think it looks quite nice as well.
I think this is great for the money. I was quite eager whenever this first came out to see some of the reviews and some of the shots, and I was impressed with it aside from the price tag, because I think it was $299 when it was first released.
It might have been as much as $340 actually when it first came out.
Oh, seriously? Right.
Yeah, they were expensive.
But for $169, I'm pretty sure Dan bought one of these, but it wasn't the 4G version, so he sent it back.
He got it basically with a tablet, didn't he? For the price of one, he got both or something like that. Yeah.
That's what it was. Yeah, that's right. It was this one. It wasn't the other camera one that they did.
No, it was this one. From memory, the S4 Zoom is essentially an S4 Mini with a big camera on the back, isn't it? I think.
Looking at the
specs, which basically makes it an S3. So it's basically an S3 with a big camera on the back, which is what you said. Yeah.
Dual-core 1.5 gigahertz, 5 gigabytes of memory, 1.5 gigabytes of RAM. So it's
Wow, it's a bit higher spec than an iPhone 6 then.
and with a bigger camera too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this does cater to a certain market, and at this price, I like it. I do. I don't think you're going to be.
It's what it's a 16 megapixel camera or something silly like that, isn't it? It's there's a lot of thing there for not a lot of things.
It's a lot of things for not a lot of things. Yeah. Yeah. It does. It's good. I like that. It's simple. Big camera.
Good.
Smartphone. Next up is Tesco Direct are selling the. This was a. I looked this up to see who it was originally made by, but I can't remember. Did I accidentally delete it there? No. The Vodafone Smart 4 Turbo is for sale over at Tesco for £80. Now, before you all, or £79 even, before you all go, just catch this between your teeth. It's a 4G phone with a 1.2 gigahertz quad-core processor, and it's running KitKat for 80 quid. 4G. On the go. I think that's Beezer.
I mean, essentially, that is an iPhone 6.
At a tenth of the price.
Yeah.
If you stick in a 128 gigabyte SD card.
Yeah.
Provided it has an SD card slot. I'm not saying that it has an SD card slot. I'll have to take the specifications here. But yeah.
That's a lot of phone. I mean, I'm getting a bit confused with the Vodafone Smart things at the moment because there's about 4 or 5 of them, isn't there?
Well,
and
yeah, I went.
Very similar names.
Tried to find out who this was made by, if it was ZTE or Huawei. It's usually one of those two, but it could be anyone actually. But
I have a feeling it's now Alcatel off the top of my head.
Oh, really? Oh.
I think it might be.
And they're my favorite company at the moment.
Yeah.
It's got 4 gigabytes of internal memory and a gig of RAM. The 4 gigs of internal memory is going to be a bit of a pain for some.
That's going to be a bit of a
yeah,
a bit limiting.
The camera. The camera is yes. I gotta love it.
The odd thing is, from my point of view, the camera on smartphones is the least of my concerns because I do all of my photography that matters with the Sony QX10. As long as it's got Wi-Fi, I connect the thing up and I've got a brilliant camera wherever I'm using it. So
yeah, very true. But don't forget, so many people just judge it by the camera. They don't care about anything other than the camera. That's narrow-minded, but
the GBs. It's the GBs and the megapixels.
Yeah, and even then, the more the megapixel doesn't mean that it's a better camera.
No, quite.
The biggest myth you'll ever be sold in a phone shop.
Yes.
And of course, well, I suppose we could end the podcast by taking our hats off for those people on Phones for You who have recently lost their jobs. It's terrible to hear that. Our heart goes out to all of you, and you did a very good job over the years of getting people the right contracts and the right phones, and you deserve a well done. We like you a lot, and we always have done. You're one of the better phone shops on the high street, even though you're owned by the same company as that Caravan Warehouse company.
No, they're not.
Yeah, they are.
No.
No, it's PC. What am I talking about?
PC Mode, yes.
Sorry,
there has been some news today. There has been some news today that there might be some sort of resolution possible for that. So fingers crossed that it might mean the stores can open back up again, maybe.
Well, I will say that one of the reasons why I mention it is because I was looking on a job site earlier on and saw that they were advertising for some higher management in Phones for You at the moment.
Yes. Yeah. There's been various stories about why it's happened. It's unusual that you find a company that reported £105 million profit last year that has gone into administration, but there's been various reasons that's happened.
Mm-hmm.
And there has been some news this evening that there's a possible resolution in the offing, which may result in the stores reopening. So fingers crossed to all the staff. You have our sympathies, my sympathy at the moment, and hope things get sorted out.
Absolutely, yeah. And bit of a crying shame that tomorrow's going to be the biggest day in mobile phones for the year, and they're closed.
One of the good things is anybody that pre-ordered with an EE contract with Phones for You, they've posted an FAQ page about how you will be able to get your phone. They have reserved you your phones, and you'll be able to go in with a receipt from when you pre-purchased it to go into a EE store to pick one up. So you'll still be able to get one. So there's some good news.
Nice one. Yeah, that's good news.
So EE standing by customers there.
Mm-hmm.
No such news from Vodafone.
Well, yeah. Okay, well, do you have anything else you want to add? Any topics that you want to throw in there before we go?
No. Happy iPhone Day to everybody that's going to go and pick one up. And see you next time.
Yeah. Maybe next week if we manage to get together, because we often promise that and fail miserably. But hopefully we'll be.
It's Hangouts that stops us, people. We are here every week. It's just Hangouts just doesn't work. So.
Yeah. Google, get it sorted out, please.
A couple of times Matt and me have been here, and Gareth's actually not turned up. So we've forgotten he's on holiday and things like that.
Oh, that happened that time, did it? You were actually waiting on me.
We were actually, Gareth, Matt and I were waiting on. Yeah, we were on a phone call. Yeah.
Oh right. I did tell Matt. Yeah. Scottish independence possibly tomorrow. So maybe next week we'll be broadcasting to a new country in the world. Well, it's still a new independent country in the world. Maybe, possibly. I'm not giving any form of as to whether or not. Yeah. Okay. And if you want to get in touch with us to complain to Phil about his threat of independence, you can email us at podcast@tracyandmatt.co.uk, or you can phone us on 0208 123 3757. You can get in touch with me on Twitter at Gareth Myles, GarethMyles. What's your name again? Phil? Yeah. You're on Twitter too, aren't you?
I'm at LOW405.
Okay, and you can find Matt on Twitter at tracyandmatt.co.uk, and of course Dan as well is Mobile Man Dan, at Mobile Man Dan, that is. And of course we had Jay on earlier in text form, who is at Jay Garrett. That's JayGarrett, and you can check out Gadgety News, which is his website, that has a refreshing take on all things technology. It's not just mobile phones or tablets, it's gadgets, as the title would lead you to believe. Cunningly titled. Well done. But thanks to everyone who took part tonight, and biggest sorrow to Jay for not actually being able to appear or have his voice heard.
And possibly getting arrested. Who knows?
Well, yes, dodging the security. And we'll hopefully be able to get him on next week if Google lets us. All right, well, we'll speak to you next week. Take care now.
Good night.